Hey everybody, I'm Mike with Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and this is The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. It's time to join the conversation.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike with MK Outdoor Journal, not Budget Guns and Gear Reviews anymore, but this is still The Right of the People, where we do in fact use the first to defend the second. This is Friday, August 20th, 2021, and there is skullduggery afoot in the world. There usually is, but it's getting pretty skullduggerous out there right now. And it's coming from the usual suspects. But before we get into that, this is where I would normally welcome my esteemed panel, but no one's decided to come play with me today. So I guess it's just us. I want to welcome Daryl Wygand out there writing a book. We got Rich White in the house, Jason Stewart, gun-loving grandpa. Chuck Censorship. I guess I just censored you, right? Out there in the chat. And other folks out there, if you are not saying something out in the chat, say something. That way I can say hi. This is a conversation. I want to hear from you. I just ask that we keep it A, radio friendly, and B, on topic. Let's not devolve into personal attacks. We can disagree with each other all we want. It's by taking out each other's ideas, looking at them, comparing them to our own, that we decide if we need to modify what we believe. And that's how we grow. So I'm fine with that. Even disagreement's awesome. But let's keep it on topic. Let's not get vulgar, and let's not have personal attacks, because that's not productive at all. That's not a conversation. That's just poor taste and rude. And my mods will swing the hammer, and if they don't, I will. So yeah. And Chuck Censorship says, gosh, I miss Trump. Yeah, I agree. Jason Stewart says, I have 762 by 54 reasons, 762.54 reasons why Biden is an infringing tyrant. Hashtag save the Tula. Yeah, we were almost late today because as soon as I heard the news, I went and ordered 1,000 more rounds of 7.62 by 3.9 because, yeah, I shoot AKs a lot. I shoot SKSs a lot. My PSA KS-47 shoots 7.62 by 3.9. So, yeah, this is going to hit me. What are we talking about? Well, breaking news just came out that President Sniffy decided in his immense wisdom that the thing for him to do was ban imports of Russian guns and ammunition. This kind of came out of the blue. I don't know if anybody had any warning of it. I certainly didn't. Let's take a look and get into the topic. This is from tactical.com. Breaking news, Biden State Department bans import of Russian ammo and firearms, from August 20th, 2021 by Thomas K. Ammunition prices are about to skyrocket. Biden's State Department announced today further sanctions on Russia, which include the denial of all pending and future import permits for firearms manufactured in Russia. This is bad news for gun owners in America for two reasons. Russian ammunition accounts for approximately 40% of available ammo at this time, and steel ammunition prices are the only thing keeping brass ammunition prices in check. When steel goes up, brass will skyrocket. All information is provided for you below. According to state.gov, new sanctions imposed today under the CBW Act include restrictions on the permanent imports of certain Russian firearms. New and pending permit applications for the permanent importation of firearms and ammunition manufactured or located in Russia will be subject to a policy of denial. Additional Department of Commerce export restrictions on nuclear and missile-related goods and technology pursuant to Export Control Reform Act of 2018. These sanctions also include a continuation of measures imposed in March 2nd, 2021, as well as a 2018 and 2019 in response to the poisoning of Sergei Skripal and his daughter, along with the waivers associated with these sanctions. And then it gives you directions to that. Duration and conditions are for removal. These latest sanctions on Russia, pursuant to the CBW Act, will take effect upon the publication of a Federal Register notice expected on September 7, 2021, and they will remain in place for a minimum of 12 months. The sanctions can only be lifted after a 12-month period if the executive branch determines and certifies to Congress that Russia has met several conditions described in the CBW Act 22 U.S. Code 5605C, including providing reliable assurances that it will not use chemical weapons in violation of international law, and it is not making preparations to use chemical weapons in the future. It is willing to allow international inspectors to verify those assurances, and it is making restitution to Mr. Navalny. So, we are going to find it pretty hard to get wonderful things like 7.62x39 or basically any of the Russian ammo, whether it's the Russian 5.56, the 9mm, which I shoot a lot of tool ammo because it's cheap. The 7.62x39, 7.62x54R, pretty much anything imported from Russia, gone. So enjoy those prices. I guess they'll just go to Afghanistan along to join the U.S. ammo and guns that are now in common availability there. So let's go out in the chat. Let's see. Travis T, I heard there was cheap Tula here. I'm here for the ammo. If this was being streamed at PST like it should be, this would have been better, says Calaveras 32 Special. Well, you know, all I can tell you is that I live in the Eastern time zone, so therefore that's where my world revolves. I can't help it if you're trapped up there behind enemy lines. Rich White says Biden is just following the example of his buddy, a bonehead. There goes Red Army Standard in Tula, says Calaveras 32 Special. Most wolf stuff is Russian-made too, says Rich. Warsaw Patriot points out that Biden is a total Richard Cranium. All the while, Russia is helping to get more people out of Afghanistan than we are. Yeah, that's another thing. Oh, did you guys hear? And I know it's not really Second Amendment related, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. The State Department is charging Americans who are trapped over there $2,000 a head to get home, making them sign promissory notes. I read that today. That's execrable. That's egregious. That's horrifically disgusting and foul that they would do that. But they're doing it. Let's see. Golden Tiger and Brown Silver and Gold Bear are also Russian, points out Rich White. So, yeah. Ryan, are you kidding me? Russian ammo is gone? I wish I were, sir. As of in September, when this notice is published in the Federal Register, yeah, there will be no more importation of Russian ammunition or firearms. So, yeah. Enjoy that sweet, sweet freedom. Right? As I said, as soon as I heard about this, I went online and ordered 1,000 rounds. Ordered another case of 7.62x39 because, yeah, I gotta feed Svetlana my AK, man. She's hungry. Warsaw Patriot points out he's appeasing Afghanistan, the Taliban, and he's disarming us piece by piece. Yeah, I think this is a great thing as far as President Sniffy is concerned because, you know, not only does he get to sanction Russia, they must not have paid him enough, but he also gets to stick it to us too by making the cost of ammunition higher. Backdoor gun control, that's what they're all about. Why did he do that? What's the BS reason now? Well, according to the article, apparently Russia poisoned somebody, so we can't buy Russian ammunition or guns. Now we know what the real reason is. I think old Uncle Touchy could give a crap less who Russia poisons. This is in my opinion, and I could be wrong, primarily pointed right at us to cut off a supply of ready ammunition, to make ammunition more expensive. If not directly that, you know full well that this was calculated to do that as a nice, sweet side effect. So, yeah. So who else makes steel-cased ammo? I don't know. Not for 7.62 2x39 or, you know, the ammo that the Russians import. I think I know Winchester makes some steel-cased 9mm. It's not that much cheaper than the brass, though. It works. So yeah, I don't know what other countries import steel-cased ammo. I hope that some enterprising former comm bloc nation decides that there's an opportunity here in the capitalist haven in America to manufacture and export to us some steel-cased ammunition at reasonable prices. That would be awesome. Rich White says Winchester steel case stuff sucks. Well, I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's worth what they charge for it. I think it should be a bit less expensive than it is. I haven't had a problem with it, but that's just me. Good evening, Rob. How you doing? So if you're out there and I sent a link to you, did you actually get it? I gotta wonder that, because there's nobody who hopped on the chatteroo here, the panel. So let me know if you're one of my patrons or one of the people to whom I normally send a invite. Let me know if you actually got it, because if you didn't get it, I'll resend it. What about PPU, Serbian ammo? That can work? Serbian ammo's, I've never had a problem with PPU. I don't know. Is it steel cased? I think the stuff I've shot is brass, but most of the good import steel case stuff comes out of the Barnaul factory in Russia. Yeah, I know. That's the problem. A-Dubs says Hornady makes some steel cased, or did, steel match line. Okay, cool. Hopefully they continue to do so. No, I did not say okay Google. I said okay cool. Goodness. My phone is a bit naggy. Warsaw Patriot says Hornady in Winchester is overpriced. Yeah, I agree. I think it is. Ryan says not only is ammo super expensive, but now he took a major chunk out of the AK ammo market. And I think that was at least half the point of this. I think at least half of this was aimed at us, not Russia. It was just backdoor gun control to try to get us out of the, deplete our stocks and make it harder for us to get it. PPU's brass, they make good stuff. Never had an issue with PPU. Ryan says, yeah, and it's no doubt more expensive. Yes, it is. But it is good stuff. So there's that. If anybody who has a link wants to hop on, we could talk about that. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to what was the main story until this late breaking news came. And let me get over to that. Because backdoor gun control isn't all that they have in mind for us. Oh no, they have out and out gun control in mind for us. Because I believe it was Congressman Deutsch. Yeah, Deutsch, Theodore E., Democrat, Florida, on August 6th, introduced H.R. 4953, National Firearms Amendments Act of 2021. Let's take a look at the text of this. Let's see, H.R. 4953, to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to subject to the requirements of the National Firearms Act any semi-automatic rifle that has the capacity to accept a detachable magazine. That right there is the bill. That is that's the short of it. A bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to subject to the requirements of the National Firearms Act any semi-automatic rifle that has the capacity to accept a detachable magazine. Be enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 2, semi-automatic rifle with capacity to accept detachable magazine treated as firearm under National Firearms Act. In general, Section 5845A of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended by striking "and" a destructive device and inserting destructive device and a semi-automatic rifle or shotgun that has the capacity to accept a detachable ammunition feeding device, and by adding at the end of the following. The term detachable ammunition feeding device means an ammunition feeding device that can be removed from a firearm without disassembly of the firearm action. The term ammunition feeding device means a magazine, belt, drum, feed strip, or similar device, but does not include an attached tubular device, which is only capable of operating with .22 caliber rimfire ammunition. The term semi-automatic rifle or shotgun means any repeating rifle or shotgun which utilizes a portion of the energy of a firing cartridge to extract the fired cartridge case and chamber the next round, and which requires a separate pull of the trigger to fire each cartridge. Applicability. Any person who, on the date of the enactment of this act, lawfully owns or possesses a semi-automatic rifle or shotgun, as defined in Section 5845A of such code as amended by this act, that has the capacity to accept a detachable ammunition feeding device, as defined in such section, shall, no later than 120 days after the date of enactment of this act, register the semi-automatic rifle or shotgun in accordance with Section 5841 of such code. Such registration shall become a part of the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record required to be maintained by such section. The prohibition on possession of an unregistered firearm under Section 5861 of such code shall not apply to possession of such a semi-automatic rifle or shotgun that has that capacity to accept the detachable ammunition feeding device on any day that is 120 days or less after the enactment of this act. So, here they are, trying to turn every single semi-automatic rifle or shotgun that can accept a detachable magazine into something that is subject to registration under the National Firearms Act, which means fill out your forms, pay your $200, beg permission, and wait for permission. That's what it means. Or what? Because I'm not seeing it provide any penalties. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not registering a dang thing. Nothing. They can kiss my fat white patookie. Let's see. Who are the co-sponsors in this? Of course, we have the sponsor, Deutsch, Theodore E. Carson, Andre, Democrat, Indiana. Cooper, Jim, Democrat, Tennessee. The Saunier, Mark, Democrat, California. I don't know if I mispronounced that name, and I really don't care. Jones, Mondaire, Democrat, New York. Lowenthal, Alan S., Democrat, California. Raskin, Jamie, Democrat, Maryland. Wasserman Schultz, Debbie, Democrat, Florida. Williams, Nikema, Democrat, Georgia. What do all these people have in common, aside from being in the House of Representatives, and aside from allegedly being human beings? Oh, wait! They're all Democrats. So when people tell me, oh, Democrats ain't coming for your guns, well, it sure as hell seems to me that that's where these things originate. I could be wrong. I am just a fat loudmouth with a camera and a microphone, after all. Hey, I got some people to play with. Yay! Roll call, how you doing?
Sorry, I'm late, man. I had to go to the feed store. I got deer that are hungry.
Well, that's okay. Fatten them up. Makes them nice and juicy, right?
Sure does.
So who else do we have here? Fellow gun tuber. Fellow gun tuber? Oh, they got the lost connection. You know what that means? You know what that means? They are pretty much done. So we will kick them because they're just taking up space and bandwidth that they're not going to be able to use. If you can get a good connection and join back in, please feel free to do so. But yeah, let's have this. So what do you think about either of the two things I talked about? Did you catch the first about the ban on Russian firearms and ammunition? Ro? Ro? Did I give Ro the boot?
Sorry, man. I had to run in the house real quick and grab a torch. What was your question, bro?
Did you catch anything from either of the two articles I just read? The first one being the import ban on Russian ammunition and firearms that is going to be coming as soon as it's published in the Federal Register in September, or what I just read about the HR whatever the hell it is. I just read the damn thing. HR 4953, which will require us to register with the NFA any firearm, any rifle or shotgun that's semi-automatic and can accept a detachable magazine. Yes, people, that includes the Ruger 1022. About the only thing it doesn't include is the Marlin Model 60. Apparently, these people have Marlin Model 60s. Maybe them and Clover are all in Marlin Model 60 club or something. Not that I'm equating Clover with these guys. I'm just saying he happens to love the Marlin Model 60. That's all.
And who's making this decision? Is this the administration or who is this?
The U.S. State Department, i.e. Joe Biden, made the decision that because the Russians poisoned somebody a while back, at this point they're going to sanction Russia by eliminating importation of Russian ammunition and firearms. And Ted Deutsch and a bunch of other people, 8 other Democrats, have filed this HR 4953. Yeah, 4953.
And that's the banning of anything that takes a detachable magazine?
Any semi-automatic rifle or shotgun that is capable of accepting a detachable magazine would then be subject to registration under the NFA.
How many sponsors do they have for this?
8. It's Andre Carson, Jim Cooper, Mark Desaulniers, Mondaire Jones, Alan Lowenthal, Jamie Raskin, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and Nikema Williams. Plus Ted Deutsch is the sponsor.
Yeah, he's the. So they only got 8 people. So if you go onto their website, you can go and see the percentage of what kind of chance this bill has in passing. It doesn't have a hell in chance passing.
No.
And this is why we talk. I should say I do, not anybody else that joins this panel or out there in the gun culture. But this is why I talk about when gun manufacturers have to start towing the line. This would put almost all the manufacturers under a thumb.
And put them out of business.
Yeah, it would almost. Well, I mean, unless you buy these things and you pay your unconstitutional tax stamp. That's the only way you get this stuff.
Yep.
So, I mean, when am I going to see Smith & Wesson come out with a statement? When am I going to see SIG come out with a statement? I mean, for crying out loud, SIG is selling guns to Mexico, and Mexico's suing all the other gun manufacturers.
Yep.
I mean, it's a little bit of chaos. I mean, with what the world's dealing with now, you figure they have something else to do, per se. But again, I mean, when are these manufacturers? It's only the small manufacturers that speak out about this stuff. If you notice, it's never the big heavy hitters. It's never Ruger. It's never Glock. It's never anybody, and it's just small manufacturers like Phoenix Ammunition or SB Tactical, or now these new people. What are they? The rare breed folks. So, I mean, I don't think it'll go anywhere. Will it get traction? I highly doubt it if it's that radical. So, I mean, keep an eye on it. The sky ain't falling yet. I mean, but again, this is why we ask you to participate in 2A activities.
And that's exactly where I was intending to go with it, Ro, is yes, this is an egregious, filthy, disgusting bill. Is it going to go anywhere? Probably not. But we need to make sure that we call our Congress critters and elected representatives and tell them, hey, this H.R. 4953 thing, and that's a non-starter. If you vote for that, you don't get my vote. Just because, it could. I mean, there's a way far outside chance that if nobody says, hey, don't do this, they might go, well, I didn't say not to do it, so let's go ahead and, we'll go ahead and vote for this. So we need to be on top of this stuff. We need to make sure we tell our Congress critters and elected representatives, don't do this garbage. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but we do need to watch it. G says that, hi, gun websites, how you doing? It says that this is the same as always, distract gun owners from other issues. News needs things to divert from the real issues. Pickle says this will kill the gun industry. It would benefit the gun companies to fight it. Yes, it would benefit them to fight it. If it were to gain any traction, they would be foolish to not weigh in on this. Because this would be just terrible. It would add so much bureaucracy and such a restriction on. Well, maybe to some of you are like, okay, you got to get permission and register it. Big deal. We got to do that where I live. So, maybe it's just since I come from a free state where I don't have to do those things that it seems so egregious to me. Like it would be the sky is falling, end of the world if something like this passes. Maybe it wouldn't be a big deal. Maybe it'd just be another $200 and we got to wait. It would be an inconvenience. But it's an inconvenience that shouldn't happen because it's an infringement and an impediment to the exercise of a constitutionally enumerated right. It's a delay. And as I've heard Alan Gottlieb say, and I'm not sure where he picked this up, a right delayed is a right denied. And it shouldn't be that way, folks.
I mean, I hope the big gun organizations, I mean, like the NRA, like GOA, FPC, and all the other cackle of money lovers, I hope they understand that the Biden administration has done the world's largest and recorded straw purchase in American history. Just here the last couple of days. So I don't want to hear arguments. I don't want to hear arguments from J.B. Pritzker or what's her name, Beetlejuice, about straw purchasing of firearms or felons having firearms. The United States government just armed the most lethal and brutal population on this earth at this time. Now, there could be some other ones that pop up here, but I don't want to hear anything else from...
That's what all this was. The ANA was just a straw purchaser. This is all one big straw purchase. That is awesome.
That's all it was.
That is awesome.
That's all it was. It's one of the most egregious things. They don't want us to have this. They want to put this little crummy little bill in front of us, but yet they'll arm some of the most lethal people out there. It's the most brutal regime that we've ever seen taking hold in the 20th century. And what? For what? So we can be treated like the way the Taliban is treating everybody else? Come on, man. Get out of here with that. You know where they can take that bill and shove it.
The Taliban gets Blackhawks and MRAPs and drones, oh my, and we can't buy Russian ammo.
And we got to register a 22 that takes a box mag. Come on, man.
Yep. Crazy, right? But this is their mentality. Remember, folks, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Gun control is never about guns. It's always about control. This ain't about guns. Ain't never been about guns. It's about control.
And one more thing before we leave topic. What you see across the pond is what you should expect to happen with us if we do not continue to push. It is such a struggle. I get frustrated. G gets frustrated. A lot of people in the 2A community get frustrated at fighting for it. But when you don't, then you have the Taliban. What they're doing is going around and collecting weapons from its populace. Yep. And that's what will happen here. And that's what these bills are designed to do. So in a nutshell, the government has straw purchased some of the largest and egregious things in modern day history that's been recorded. Then on top of it, we see confiscation again. Not from like what we saw in Australia years back. Now we're seeing it again from another oppressive regime. So this is why it's so important to spread the word, to talk to people in your communities, to talk to your lawmakers, even as democratic as they want to be, or as left or as moderate if they want to be. This is why you do it. Because if this stuff happens in this country, things are going to go bad, and they're going to go bad quick. So the more we stamp it out, the more we focus on the main issue, the better off we are as gun owners.
Couldn't have said it better. There's an update in the Kyle Rittenhouse matter. For those of you who have been under a rock, Kyle Rittenhouse was the then 17-year-old who was in Kenosha, Wisconsin during the rioting and was attacked by several people and was forced to use his AR-15 to defend himself, resulting in one grotesque injury and a couple deaths. Well, he's back in the news. Kyle Rittenhouse was recorded weeks before the Kenosha shooting saying he wished he had my effing AR to shoot at people leaving CVS, prosecutors say. This is from August 19th, 2021. Prosecutors said a newly surfaced video taken just weeks before last year's deadly Kenosha shootings captured the Illinois teenager Kyle Rittenhouse describing his wish to shoot at people with an AR-15 as they left a pharmacy. According to court documents obtained by Insider, prosecutors are seeking to have the judge admit the video as evidence in Rittenhouse's upcoming trial. They said the video provided crucial insight into Rittenhouse's state of mind in summer 2020. The 29-second video, which has been published by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, does not show Rittenhouse's face. The video was apparently filmed across the street from a CVS pharmacy where several hooded people could be seen rushing out and clutching items. A voice that sounds like Rittenhouse's can be heard saying, "Bro, I wish I had my effing AR. I'd start shooting rounds at them." It's unclear who filmed the video, where it was filmed, or how prosecutors obtained it. Rittenhouse's attorney did not immediately respond to Insider's request for comment. Rittenhouse, 18, is charged in connection with the killing of the 36-year-old Joseph Rosenbaum, the child molester, and the 26-year-old Anthony Huber, the skateboard fan, and severe injuries of the 26-year-old Gage Grosskreutz, who was a felon who had a gun and was pointing it at Rittenhouse at the time. The accusation against Rittenhouse stemmed from heated racial justice protests in Kenosha, the riots, on August 25th. His trial begins November 1st. Prosecutors allege Rittenhouse was hunting humans that evening and shot the men as an act of vigilantism. Rittenhouse has said that all three men were chasing him and that he opened fire in self-defense, which all the video of the incident clearly shows. In their motion on Wednesday, prosecutors wrote that the new video, taken just 15 days before the Kenosha shootings, showed Rittenhouse saw something, jumped to a conclusion based on exactly zero facts, and then threatened to kill someone based on his baseless assumption and wrongful interpretation. Prosecutors added that Rittenhouse didn't know the people outside the CVS or what they were doing, was merely watching from a vehicle parked across the street, and was not interacting with anyone involved. The video proves that the defendant was ready and willing to use deadly force in a situation where it was completely unjustified, the motion said. The video also demonstrates that the defendant fervently sought to insert himself as an armed vigilante into situations that had nothing to do with him, prosecutors added. Normally, I let the panel give their opinions on something before I weigh in on it, but I'm not going to do that this time because I want to get to this while my thoughts are still fresh. I think this tactic is utter horse manure. I think, and this is just my opinion, I am not a lawyer. That's my brother. I am, as I've said many times, just a fat loudmouth with a camera and a microphone. But to me, even if Kyle Rittenhouse did say that, it doesn't matter squat in the situation that we're talking about. The events of August 25th are separate from this incident, number one. And number two, regardless of if he was just talking shit, there's one. If he was just talking shit about something a couple weeks before, has nothing to do with what happened that night. With that night, the danger that he was clearly in, being fired on from the crowd, being assaulted by the crowd, being chased by a crowd, being knocked to the ground and kicked by the crowd, being hit in the back of the head with a skateboard by the crowd, having a gun pointed at him by the crowd as he was trying to flee. Every single time that boy pulled the trigger, he was in flight. He was not standing there. He was not moving forward. He was retreating every single time. And the only times he pulled that trigger were when he was forced to do so. This is a disgusting attempt by overzealous political prosecutors to do anything they can to get a conviction against a kid whose only crime was being a little bit stupid and going there in the first damn place. What do you guys think? Am I completely off my nut, or does this have good bearing as to what Rittenhouse's mindset was at the time? And welcome, Squib. Glad to see you could join us, brother. And you too, Pickle.
If he had, opened fire on people as they were retreating away from him, then I would say maybe, his statements in the past would have some kind of weight. But considering, you see it in the video, the people coming at him, he would engage. But as soon as someone turned away from him, he would disengage.
As a matter of fact,
suggesting he's not out there actually trying to kill. He's only trying to keep people off his butt.
You're absolutely right, because remember, for those of you who have seen this video, remember when Kreitzer, that's the guy who got the softball-sized piece of flesh blown out of his arm. When Kreitzer originally pointed the weapon at him and was coming towards him, Kyle pointed the rifle at him. Kreitzer backed off like, hey man, I don't want nothing to do with it. Only when Kreitzer pointed the pistol at him again and started to come towards him, that's when Kyle fired at him. So you're absolutely right, Pickle. Good point. Good point. Does anyone else have an opinion?
God, man, Kyle Rittenhouse isn't a hill I'm willing to die on at this point. I mean, that kid is there's I don't want to say there's something wrong with him, but there's something to be said in this instant. And it goes back to last week's show when we talked about the people in Portland. If you're going to do something like this, you better be well and ready for the consequences of your action. I mean, true. I watched it all play out live. I watched it happen live. I don't care what this prosecutor wants to talk about that this kid did weeks ago. That has no bearing on the case at hand. If you're just going to try and make this kid into a monster, well, I mean, the media's already done that, so why are you continuously doing it? Why don't you try the case based on the basis of self-defense or not self-defense? They're just trying to stir the pot a little bit more. They're trying to dabble into the pool of people that are going to be on here. Kyle Rittenhouse is an idiot. He shouldn't have been there in the first place, but he was, and there's no going back from there. But it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. This kid's going to have to own up to his responsibility, and the gun was straw purchased. And there's records and evidence of that. So I mean, look, it comes down to the do's and don'ts and the rights and wrongs of the situation. And this is what happens when stuff involves a gun. They always try and paint the person that defends themselves with a gun as the person in the wrong, never the people that are being the aggressor at this point. No, nothing's happened to Kreitzer. You know, nothing. That guy was a felon with a gun. So where'd he get his gun from? Why isn't this man on trial? Why isn't he in jail? Why isn't the person that gave him the gun or whoever he bought the gun from? Why aren't they on trial? You know, there's a lot of aspects and angles to this case, and they want to pin this kid because first of all, he couldn't stay out of the media, going to other bars and hanging out with celebrities. I mean, he's digging his own hole here, and guess what? The prosecution's got the shovel to bury him. But this stuff has no bearing at the case in hand, and it's just eating more dirt to throw into the hole when he gets buried.
Whether or not he was allowed to have the gun, the rifle, and whether or not it was a straw purchase has absolutely nothing relevance to the case at hand. That's proven by there's a case out of I think it was you that sent the article to me, Squib. Correct me if I'm wrong, about a felon who got off of a shooting. And got off of, was not charged with murder, found not guilty, even though he wasn't allowed to have a firearm because it was self-defense. Even it's been shown in court that even if you are a felon illegally in possession of a firearm, that's not relevant to whether or not the question at hand was self-defense. So that the entire subject of whether or not the firearm was legally acquired and legally possessed by Kyle is absolutely irrelevant. Completely. The only thing that's relevant is if, in that situation, he had the right to defend himself. And in my opinion, again, not a lawyer, but in my opinion, the video clearly shows that he did. But I could be wrong.
Right, in that situation, yes, that rifle may have been a straw purchase. But if he could have borrowed, I don't know what the laws are, but you could borrow a firearm from extended from family or whatever, and go to the range. And if you're attacked at the range, you use that weapon to defend yourself. Yes, it's not legally yours, but it's again doesn't really matter because it's a self-defense, not a do you have a weapon legally case.
Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. I was taking a drink. I agree. Who else we have? Is this Warsaw that come in?
It's me.
How's it going?
Frustrating times are in, my friend. Frustrating times.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I like to speak on it as part as Kyle. Everything went all downhill as soon as he was at the place. That was number one. But number two is when the guy decided to pull out a freaking illegal handgun, that's when he had the right to self-defense.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Yeah. I mean, either you have the right to defend yourself in that situation or you don't. And in my opinion, he did.
And not just the guy that had the pistol, but that's where the skateboard dude. That's where if he caught you with either because it was the thin edge of the skateboard to the base of the skull, which could potentially, cause or if you were to catch one of those wheels in the temple, that could also kill you. So that is a viable lethal object if used correctly. So that is still a weapon.
Well, the way that he was swinging that at the base of the skull like that, where the spine meets the skull, I don't know if any of you have ever raised rabbits and slaughtered them. That's how you kill them. Hold them upside down by the feet, take a stick, right at that spot, you hit them, and it severs their spinal cord. Dead. That's why the so-called rabbit punch in boxing to the back of the head in that area is illegal. I mean, right now, take the edge of your palm and tap yourself right there. It starts to make you a little bit silly, because that has a tremendous effect on you. So being struck in that area with the thin edge of a skateboard could absolutely be lethal. And I don't blame Kyle for shooting that fellow at all.
I'd like to add to that, by the way.
Sure.
Simple word. Concussions.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, we're going to see how this pans out, because my opinion, your opinion, our opinions mean nothing. Just as much as whether or not he legally had the rifle means nothing, because the only opinions that matter are the people on the jury and the judge, unfortunately. So we'll see how this turns out. The trial starts in November, and you can bet I'm going to be watching that closely.
Well, and that's right, if I might, before we move on to the next one, the obviously the opinion of the prosecutors, because they're just continuing to throw as much junk at the wall as they possibly can to try to get enough to stick to get there, because it's pretty obvious at this point it's a political prosecution. It's not a legal one.
Oh, dude, it's been obvious since the get-go it's a political prosecution. They can't have us thinking that we can stand up against the mob. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's why the McCloskeys were prosecuted, because can't stand up against the mob.
Now, here's a thought. Now, if it wasn't just these mobs, where possible citizens, which some of them probably were, but if it was the Taliban, on the other hand, would it be a different story?
To these people, no. I mean, hell, they're arming the Taliban. So they give the Taliban the guns that they don't want us to have.
We didn't do this the first time. Soviet-Afghan War, CIA.
Oh, yeah. We've been arms dealers to the Taliban for decades.
They were known as the Mujahideen.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks. Next up is some good news. SCOTUS to hear challenge to New York gun control on November 3rd. This is a piece from Breitbart. The Supreme Court of the United States will hear a challenge to New York gun control that will highlight the extent of constitutional protections for carrying a gun outside the home. The case centers on New York's requirement that concealed carry applicants show proper cause before being issued a carry permit. The case was brought by the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association and private citizens Brandon Nash and Robert Koch. Nash and Koch were denied a concealed permit based on the proper cause requirement. The defendants are Keith M. Corlett in his official capacity as Superintendent of New York State Police, Richard J. McNally Jr. in his official capacity as Justice of the New York Supreme Court, 3rd Judicial District, and Licensing Officer for Rensselaer County. The petitioners contend New York prohibits its ordinary law-abiding citizens from carrying a handgun outside the home without a license, and it denies licenses to every citizen who fails to convince the state that he or she has a proper cause to carry a firearm. In District of Columbia v. Heller, this court held that the Second Amendment protects the individual right to possess and carry weapons in case of confrontation. And the petitioners seek a ruling as to whether the Second Amendment allows government to prohibit ordinary law-abiding citizens from carrying handguns outside the home for self-defense. A federal judge ruled against Nash and Koch in 2018, and his ruling was upheld by federal appeals court. Attorney Paul Clement petitioned the SCOTUS to hear the case, writing, proper cause laws deny to ordinary law-abiding citizens like petitioners Nash and Koch the rights that the Second Amendment protects by requiring a permit applicant to submit evidence differentiating him or herself from the body of the people. Guaranteed rights under the Second Amendment, the New York regime is not merely an infringement, the regime is antithetical to the constitutional freedom itself. The case is New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. New York, case number 19-156 in the Supreme Court of the United States. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Hopefully New York doesn't do what it has a history of doing and move to do something that would render the case moot and therefore not going to be heard and not be decided by the court. So we'll see where they decide to go on this. Do you think the court will try to do something to wiggle its way out of it? Do you think New York will try to do something to wiggle its way out of it? Or do you think that the court will hear this and go, yeah, too bad? Just go ahead.
The way I see it,
yeah.
Why wait? Let's find out what happens.
What's that?
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Let's just see what happens out of this. I mean, New York's been under gun control for like what? How long?
Forever?
I don't think it was. I mean, they had an assault weapons ban like since what? It wasn't 2012. It was even before that, earlier.
Yeah, New York has always been heavily gun controlled.
I don't know if they'll try to moot the case like they did in the past, or they'll try to pull like what California and a couple other ones have at this point, where more or less they've various courts have considered hearing them, so they've gotten them along with a number of other states have more or less threatened the court to the if you don't rule in our way, we will make your lives miserable type messages.
Oh yeah, they'll be going with the we'll pack the court, we'll pack the court, we'll pack the court. We're going to hear more of that garbage for sure. New York Outcast says the state of New York is always playing dirty. Yeah, and they are. That's what they did with the New York City case about gun permits and carrying outside the home. Is they moved to moot it. They struck the law down so that they could moot this because they didn't want to have this this issue whether or not the Second Amendment protects carry outside the home. They don't want it heard in the Supreme Court. Because they know that if they lose this one, I mean, that's it. That's the enchilada. They've lost that all across the fruited plain. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I really am not even going to try to make a prediction. It's SCOTUS is weird. There are some times where I've thought for sure they would rule one way because it seemed to me that the law said that this is how you have to rule. And it would seem to me that precedent set in prior Supreme Court decisions would say they had to rule, and they've done completely the opposite. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to turn out. It will be interesting to see.
Well, and we've got two wild cards because there's the two new justices that we haven't really seen them rule on much yet at the SCOTUS level. So will they hold to what the kind of the way that they did stuff before, or are they going to shy away from setting precedent and just let things roll? We don't know yet.
Are you talking about Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Well, on the one hand, Kavanaugh in particular is very precedent oriented, and Heller would seem to be, which is precedent set by the Supreme Court, would seem to say that they absolutely can't, because remember, that's why you can get a permit in DC is because of Heller. So Heller would seem to be directly applicable to this.
Right, but what I'm saying is that's where he was big on setting precedent at the last level he was at.
Yeah.
That's where there has been more than one judge over the years. They get a promotion to a higher level, and then they become gun shy. So, no pun intended, but that's for. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually, how the two of them actually do down there at SCOTUS.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, yes, in the Chinese sense. In other words, may you live in interesting times. I don't know. I tend to believe that if they decide that Heller doesn't apply and that the New York State's scheme is hunky-dory, that it would be proof that their brains have exited through other orifices. And speaking of utter stupidity,
and now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
I've already seen Amy Coney Barrett's decisions in the state of Indiana. I don't have faith in her.
All right, fellas. First up in Moron of the Week is this piece from New York Post. De Blasio's plan to give $1,000 a month to violent offenders is insane. From August 15th. In July 2020, following the George Floyd riots, Mayor Bill de Blasio disbanded the New York Police Department's anti-crime unit, which led to a sharp rise in murders and shootings across Gotham. In response, His Honor called a news conference in Harlem in which he vowed to address crime's root causes. No one quite knew what he meant, until now. It turns out the solution is handing out cash to gun thugs. Through an outfit called Advanced Peace, the city will offer a stipend of $1,000 per month, transformational opportunities, to young men involved in lethal firearm offenses, at the same time pairing them with neighborhood change agents, credible messengers, meaning they bring life experience, conflict mediation, and mentorship skills to the target population. If giving $1,000 a month to violent teens, on the proviso that they receive mentoring from older ex-cons, sounds like a good use of money, well, you're in luck. According to public advocate Jumaine Williams, investing in the Advanced Peace model isn't only a moral obligation, it's a governing imperative. Williams, who himself avoids street violence entirely by living within the secure confines of Brooklyn's federally managed Fort Hamilton Army garrison, and his associates, claim that Advanced Peace is evidence-based and has a demonstrated track record of success. But a look at the organization's own reports indicates that the model's record is, in the best cases, mixed. In Sacramento, 3 neighborhoods were targeted for an 18-month Advanced Peace intervention, which really only covered 2019. Those districts did see a decline in gun homicides and gun assaults compared to the mean of the previous 36 months, though the comparison period is skewed by the sharp rise in the national murder rate caused by the Ferguson effect in 2015. Murders across all of California, for example, rose steeply in 2015 and 2016 and then returned to pre-Ferguson levels. The Advanced Peace program in Stockton, California, on the other hand, was a disaster. Murders rose from 28 in 2019 to 45 in 2020, up 60%, much higher than the 37% increase nationwide. The summary fact sheet for the Stockton program announces proudly that 71% of its 34 participants are not a suspect in a new firearm-related crime. Similarly, the Sacramento program boasts that 44% of its 50 members had no new arrests. Of course, that doesn't account for the 17 original participants who dropped out or who were arrested in the first 6 months. If you are tasked with keeping busload-sized cohort of young men from getting arrested for a gun crime and count it as a success when only a dozen or so get caught, maybe you need to reconsider your definition of achievement. In New York City, agreements have been struck with community-based groups in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Staten Island to manage stipend and mentorship Advanced Peace programs. The groups in question, including a Man Up in East New York and Street Corner Resources in Harlem, were selected because of their long experience in violence interruption. Of course, their close political ties to local leaders. But one has to ask, if these are the groups that have been working so hard to stop violence in the neighborhoods they are rooted in, why are their neighborhoods so violent? Not to blame Man Up or Street Corner Resources, but it isn't clear what they've been up to that deserves to be rewarded. In a year when murders citywide are running out about even with 2020, the Street Corner Resources neighborhood precinct has seen 8 killings, up from 3 last year, with shootings, felony assaults, and burglaries far outpacing the city as a whole. In East New York, Man Up, which for years has operated as a wholly owned subsidiary of the Charles and Inez Barron political machine, sits at the heart of one of Brooklyn's most violent neighborhoods, which last year notched about 15% of the borough's killings and 14% of its felony assaults. The 2-year increase in murder so far is a staggering 63%. Trusting these groups to administer the disbursement of $1,000 monthly stipends to gangster proteges of ex-con mentors is truly insane. But with de Blasio leaving office in a few months, what better way for him to establish the catastrophe of his depressing 8 years in City Hall? So, wow. That's something. Let's give these idiots $1,000 a month if they decide to be good. Next up is our wonderful, loving, sensitive, awesome, and incredible Presidente Joe Biden. And it's not honorary this time. No, this time it's because he's giving away for free what he wants to keep from us. This is from guns.com. Lawmakers demand to know what U.S. supplied weapons Taliban captured. In the aftermath of the swift collapse of the military of the Republic of Afghanistan, Republicans in the U.S. Senate want to know just what the Taliban have captured in terms of American supplied munitions. With images of newly inherited fleets of vehicles, rooms of small arms, and fields of aircraft circulating across the Taliban's largely unfettered social media accounts. That's another thing. Why in the hell are these social media sites allowing the Taliban to continue to use their platform to spread their propaganda when they want to allow Donald Trump to say mean things? This is crazy, but I digress. It's unconscionable that high-tech military equipment paid for by U.S. taxpayers has fallen into the hands of the Taliban and their terrorist allies, the senators wrote. Securing U.S. assets should have been among the top priorities for the U.S. Department of Defense prior to announcing the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Duh. The letter, led by U.S. Senator Marco Rubio of Florida and signed by 24 other Republicans, calls for detailed information on a full account of military equipment provided to the Afghan armed forces in the last year, all military equipment owned by either U.S. or Afghan armed forces that was removed or destroyed prior to the U.S. withdrawal, or is rendered inoperable without U.S. logistics personnel, all U.S. military equipment that remains operational in Afghanistan, a list of what military equipment has been seized by the Taliban, an assessment of how long it will take the Taliban to use each of the captured equipment, an assessment of the likelihood that the Taliban will seek to work with Russia, Pakistan, Iran, or the People's Republic of China for training, fuel, or infrastructure necessary to utilize the equipment they do not have the capabilities to use on their own, and any efforts by the administration, planned or underway, to recapture or destroy equipment that remains in Afghanistan and is at risk of being used by terrorist entities. Voice of America posted a video of Taliban troops manning checkpoints and running patrols in Kabul, largely utilizing American equipment, including M16s and Textron M111 or M1117 armored security vehicles, of which over 600 were provided to the Afghan military. Meanwhile, domestic firearms trade industry experts are calling out the irony that, at the same time the Biden-Harris administration has witnessed the implosion of the $88 billion coalition-trained and equipped army in Afghanistan, it is seeking to shackle the Second Amendment for Americans at home. The devastating visuals of Taliban fighters sweeping through Afghanistan that led to the fall of the Afghan government and the evacuation of the U.S. Embassy revealed a disturbing reality, said Larry Keane, Senior Vice President for Government and Public Affairs for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. President Joe Biden was willing to leave billions of dollars worth of high-tech weapons in the hands of the Taliban, but is determined to strip law-abiding U.S. citizens of their God-given right to keep and bear arms. So there you have it, folks. Who deserves to be Moron of the Week? Bill de Blasio or Joe Biden? Squib, who do you think deserves to be the moron?
Biden.
Joe Biden. Pickle, who do you think deserves to be the moron?
Biden.
Biden. Roll call. Who deserves to be the moron?
I'll pick William de Blasio.
De Blasio. Warsaw. Who deserves it?
I was going to pick Bill de Blasio, but I have to go with Biden. He's literally created inflation. He's infecting the economy. He's weakening our military. He's literally disarming people from within our own country.
So
It's
far,
Biden.
So far out there, we have 7 votes, 8 votes. All of them are for Biden. Let's see. Out there in the chat, we got... Let's see. They're saying Biden, but it's a close call. They're talking about other stuff. Go ahead and vote, folks. We got 9 votes. All of them for Biden so far. We got 19 people out there watching. Let's get 10 more votes in here. Let me know what you think. Who deserves to be moron of the week? Bill de Blasio for wanting to give $1,000 a month to felons just so they'll be good. Or Joe Biden for providing to the Taliban what he doesn't want us to have. 10 votes so far, all of them for Biden. Uncle Touchy is popular. Maybe this will be an election he actually wins. For, legitimately. M. Gabriel says, this is the first time I've seen Moron of the Week run as a poll. Well, you should have been here last week, because I did. And the week before that. Defense Dad says Biden, always. Ghost says, just hearing Taliban fighter jets is surreal. I know, right? Watching those guys roll around in our Humvees and MRAPs is just disgusting. But they're doing it.
I've been looking on the internet the last few days. I've seen reports of them flying jets to Turkey already. So I mean, they're gonna sell this equipment off. They're not gonna actually use it. I mean, if they're gonna do anything.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Alex. You can kiss my balls, buddy. Bye. Permaban. Boom. So there you go.
I was gonna say, it was during, I believe it was the, I can't remember if it was Korea or Vietnam. That's where we found out later. That's where a lot of the best pilots that our guys went up against ended up being, Chinese pilots, Russians and Chinese pilots that were flying under the other country's banner.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. So maybe the Taliban doesn't have the skill set to use some of these aircraft. So either the ones they don't sell, how long will it take for them to recruit someone from another country to fly it for them?
This is the kind of wonderful people we have out there. Maybe this guy deserves to be Moron of the Week. This fellow Alex, my poll is this: who here is the most overweight racist piece of shit on this chat? Tactical LMAO. Do me a favor and get COVID and die, all of y'all. Stop breathing my American air. As I said, you can kiss my balls, sir. So ban that stupid piece of shit. I know, because I banned the stupid piece of shit. That's why.
Alex is having a bad day.
No, but roll call. What you were saying about the equipment, as far as like being left in Afghanistan to the Taliban. Apparently, the Taliban I've been hearing is actually trying to think about selling it to the Chinese and the Russians.
They've already had meetings with the Chinese before this even happened.
Yeah,
oh, great.
They had a meeting in July and they had a meeting in June with them. So I mean, guess who's going to get those spy planes? They're either going to sell it to the highest bidder, or they're going to give it to China or Russia. They're not going to use this stuff.
Yep, and also the last time I checked, the Russians and Chinese actually have a copy of our F-22 Raptor and F-35. They're getting our technology.
They didn't leave them our best stuff. And if any of you know anything about aviation, it's more than just putting a guy in the cockpit and pretending you're Tom Cruise.
Oh, no, you got to have the logistics train.
Yeah. You don't have air support without ground support. You don't do maintenance on these aircraft. You don't know how to operate them properly. You're going to crash them. They won't be able to take off. I understand that there's a black market for spare parts and stuff, but now they're going to have to be funneling these things in. And if you look at what they left them crap. They didn't leave them anything special.
I'd like to have an MRAP. Won't Joe give one to me?
You can buy them.
I can't buy them.
Jeff, they're not that expensive. Damn.
I can't buy them.
They're not that expensive. You can buy it surplus. You can drive it down the street. It's street legal.
My credit card limit's not that high, Squib.
Yeah, no kidding. Mine neither. They should give it to me free like they did the Taliban.
They did leave them a whole bunch of M4s and M16s, not to mention light machine guns.
So
here we go. They just improved more of their military power. Got a whole bunch of rusted up AKs that they're not going to use anymore.
G-Web says already sold to Pakistan and China. Yeah, I have no doubt. All that's the lawmakers wanting to get an accounting of this and what are we going to do to recapture? There ain't no recapturing this stuff. It's already gone. It's hidden. What isn't hidden in caves is in China and Pakistan by now.
Yeah, there's no recapturing it. It's a write-off.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I think they should have it. They shouldn't have it. We shouldn't have left it. But the fact is just people are losing their minds over this, and I can understand as a taxpayer saying, "Hey, those are my tax dollars." But anything else, I mean, guns, they've got tons of guns over there. A few more ain't going to make a difference. And then some of the other stuff that we left them, in no time, this stuff, if it isn't sold, it'll be broke down on a runway, on a tarmac, on the side of the road, you name it. I'm more pissed off as a taxpayer that my hard-earned tax dollars, it's bad enough they go to deadbeats in America. Now they're going to terrorists overseas.
What they should have done was left a bunch of ammo that was like triple charged so that it'd blow the hell up whenever they fired it, and rigged the vehicles to explode after a certain amount of days and whatnot, because, just to sabotage the sumbitches. But no, actually, what they really should have done realistically was drop a thermite grenade on it and be done. Just destroy it.
It's just like back in the 80s with the Mujahideen. That when the Russians were there, they were fighting them with World War II stuff.
Yeah. And
then Russia pulled out, and then they got AKs and the Chinese AKs. Now that we pulled out, they just jumped the scale a little bit with all the M4s and the SCARs.
M16s.
The M16s, things like that. Yeah. So it basically, instead of them shooting a shot out SKS or AK-47, now they got some new stuff. So I mean, and if you haven't seen the reports already, there's already people fighting the Taliban that have already taken over a couple of territories.
Oh, really?
Guess what?
Good.
Yeah. They confiscated some of that stuff too. Good. So I mean, now it's just going to be an infighting thing at this point. What's really disturbing is the Northern Alliance. If you guys don't remember the Northern Alliance, that was the Mujahideen. The Taliban's a different element. They're from a different tribal aspect. Mujahideen was the Northern Alliance that we funneled all the stuff to in the beginning of the war.
Yeah.
What's disturbing about that is now these guys are on the side of the Taliban. So now you got a group that we tried to push to put some type of government in there that now is flipped to the Taliban. Now you got this other group that's fighting against these guys. So that's what's disturbing about it.
Well, I'd like to add to that. Also, I'm hearing rumors of Al-Qaeda now actually getting involved now with them.
Well, folks, the official results are in. All 12 of the votes. Joe Biden, he is the moron of the week.
How about moron of the 8
And there
months?
we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
All right, folks, those of you who've been here before know what's coming. We've done everything. The Moron of the Week is over, so now it's time for Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts. Self-defense shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It's where I'm in fact reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to prevent the bad guy from making him do the same. First up is this piece from concealednation.org. Armed 7-Eleven clerk shoots and kills robber armed with screwdriver. Norfolk, Virginia. A 28-year-old man is dead after police say he tried robbing a 7-Eleven store Sunday night with a screwdriver, only to be shot and ultimately killed by an armed employee at the location. Police say Javier Garcia went into the store around midnight and attempted a robbery while using a screwdriver as a weapon, but an employee was armed with a gun and shot Garcia. He was taken to the hospital where he died from his injuries. No other injuries were reported. Police have not released the name of the employee who shot Garcia. Pardon me. That's what I get for being an amateur hack and drinking carbonated beverages before and during a show, right? Next up, this is a piece from KSDK.com. Suspected intruder shot, killed by homeowner in Webster Groves, police say. This is from August 13th. Webster Groves, Missouri. A burglary suspect was shot and killed by a homeowner in Webster Groves early Friday morning. At around 2:51 a.m., Webster Groves police were called to a home in the 1400 block of Grant Road for a burglary in progress. Police said a man got into the home through a back door where he was confronted by the homeowner, who was armed with a shotgun. The homeowner reported that they told the suspect to leave the home, but the man didn't comply, and that's when the homeowner shot the suspect. The suspect was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. Police have not identified the man or the homeowner. And last, but most certainly not least, is this piece in Breitbart. Watch, alleged robbers flee when homeowner opens fire. Police are looking for 4 robbery suspects who kicked in the door of a Phoenix, Arizona home, then ran from the scene after the homeowner opened fire. Gee, was this you? Fox 10 reports that the incident occurred August 12th at 3:44 a.m., and police have now released security camera footage in hopes of getting the public's help in identifying the suspects. Phoenix Police Sergeant Ann Justice described the scene as 4 males, some of who appear to be armed in the video, kicked in the front door. The homeowner discharged a gun toward them. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video. You guys on the chat won't be able, on the panel won't be able to see or hear it unless you're watching on another screen. But yeah, this is funny. For those of you listening in podcast format, sees a car pull up, 4 dudes get out of it, go up to a door. They stage around the door. It's got a camera. They try to cover up the camera and then decide, nah, who cares? We're not going to cover that up. So they get ready and they pull up their big boy pants and kick the door open, and immediately get shot at and scatter like the roaches they are, running over each other, trying to get out of the way and fleeing down the road. I only wish that the homeowner had been a little bit more accurate and gotten 1 or 2 of them. So hats off to that homeowner. I bet those dudes will think twice before they pull that crap again. So there we are, folks. Despite what the lamestream media wants you to think, people defend themselves with firearms all the time. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks, Warsaw, for hopping on. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for being here and being part of the program tonight. I want to thank my esteemed panel and let them have an opportunity to leave us with any final thoughts or plugs that they would like to make. Roll call. Is there anything you would like to say before we go?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Guys, go take a look at my channel. It's not for everyone. I have a chat on Wednesday night, 9:30, 10-ish, whenever my internet wants to work, called Rants and Raves, where we discuss some things and maybe make the world a little bit worse. I don't know. That's your call. But thanks for having me.
Pickle, is there anything you'd like to leave us with, sir? Calaveras 32 special. He may be attempting to speak, but it looks like his connection is poor. So we'll come back to him. Squib, is there anything you'd like to leave us with, sir?
Oh, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. That's where I was talking. I guess it was connecting because I just got home. So I guess I was connecting to Wi-Fi.
My apologies. That's right. Just want to say thank you for letting me in, even though I was late. I would encourage everyone to go over to my YouTube channel. Where they can see my initial review on the MK Outdoor Journal holster. Very well made, very elegant, and I encourage everyone that has holster needs to reach out to Mike.
So do I. Squib, is there anything you'd like to say, sir?
No.
Alrighty then. On that note, I want to thank everybody who's been out there in the chat and been a part of the discussion tonight. I appreciate it. I am, as always, humbled and amazed that you've chosen to spend this time with us. Even if you did get banned. So, thanks for the engagement there, sucker. So, I guess, I need to leave you guys with the same admonition as I do every week. Make sure you contact your Congress critters and elected representatives and let them know what you think. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, carrier pigeons, bicycle messengers, smoke signals, anything that you have to do to let them know what you think. And never, ever, ever give up the fight. I'll see you guys on the next one.